There will be a work session
Yeah.
followed by a special meeting of the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado on Monday, June 8th, 2026 at 3 o'clock p.m. at City Council Chambers at City Hall, 135 North Anima Street, Trinidad, Colorado, 81082. The following items are on file for consideration in council. Item number 1, lodging tax ordinance discussion.
Mayor, if you could just give us 1 second. Good afternoon, everyone. We're just gonna see if we can find Joe, the chair of the Lodging Tax Advisory Board. And if not, then we could feel free to go on to the building code and WUI update. Are you reaching out for him?
Roger that.
Okay. Maybe we give it 1 minute.
Yes.
He's coming up in the elevator. Mr. Downs?
Why they're missing you?
The clerks are excused from the meeting. They're working on the payroll in Dayforce, which is our first time to do it digitally. So
Yeah,
they are close by, but embroiled in that
it
process.
takes 2 or 3 payrolls to get that redid.
Yeah.
2 or 12.
2 or
And thank you
12.
all for coming this afternoon.
Okay. I have a tendency to fall over.
I see a couple backups for Joe out there in the audience. Maybe they should put
Yeah.
it on, huh?
Okay.
Would you like to move forward to the item number 2?
It's your pleasure, Mayor, whichever you would prefer to do.
We will pause on item number 1. Item number 2, the floor is open for council discussion.
So what we have in front of you is the proposed ordinance for the 2024 Building and Wildland Urban Interface Code update. We've noted in highlight 2 sections, and then we'd like to turn it over to you. The first section is in 5.6, and it's section C, 401.2, and that is the section where the waiver exists. I apologize, it's a bit blacked out. And then at the back, at the very end, we had a request from a council member, Peters, to put in this section. So we would like for you to, and it is highlighted in section 4, the safety clause, and we've dropped the language in there with some staff revision, and those are the only 2 changes in the ordinance from first reading. So we would turn this over to you for discussion. And we can pull out what was added at the end, or we can leave it in, or we can modify it. Just to remind you, we've had first reading. Second reading is the 16th of June. Second reading is where we hold the public hearing, and then you vote on the ordinance, and it becomes effective 10 days later. That would be the 26th. So we can amend between first reading and second reading. So the amendments that are proposed for your review are the discussion today. Staff didn't bring forward anything else.
Thank you.
Okay.
The floor is now open for the council discussion. Councilman Williamson, would you like to open with any questions? Or should we, let's ask Tim about his role in the addition that he recommended.
Okay, can we start off with section 5.6, the International Energy Conservation Code, and that highlighted green area? Does everybody see that? Mm-hmm. You see it? Okay. Explain what this is, Tara.
This was provided to Aspire Consultant. This is the waiver language. Would you like for me to read it into the record?
Sure.
Okay. Section C 401.2 of the IECC is amended to read as follows. C 401.2 application, commercial buildings shall apply with the Colorado Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code with the exception of Chapter 3 Electric Ready provisions, which will be incorporated through an implementation plan in agreement with the City of Trinidad and the City of Trinidad Power and Light Department. The implementation plan will begin July 1, 2027 and conclude at such time as full implementation of electric-ready provisions can be met by the utility for both residential and commercial buildings. Implementation plan shall be posted on the City of Trinidad website. This was the language recommended by the consultant. This is the waiver that allows us a grace in the electric-ready code. And the only recommended language I would change is that the first sentence where it says commercial buildings, perhaps we say commercial and residential buildings at that point. Anybody else have any comments?
Oh, I agree with that, adding residential onto that,
Okay.
onto the wording there. Can I just keep going?
Yeah.
Let's go down to the end where we're adding on the language right before the end. All right, section 4, the safety clause. Has everybody got a chance to read this? These statements? I'm looking down the line.
Safety ones, yes.
Okay. Let me read it. This is, okay, we've been working through this for months, right? And all I've asked for is some kind of assurance in writing that, you know, we'll adopt the 24, but then we retain our local control, right? This is what we've been talking about. So let me just read this section. The City of Trinidad expressly retains and reserves its full home rule authority and local control to administer, interpret, enforce, grant variances, waivers, amendments, and other relief under the adopted codes as provided in the Trinidad Municipal Code and the Colorado Constitution. This adoption does not limit the city's ability to address local conditions, historic preservation, economic development, housing affordability, or community priorities through its existing processes. Furthermore, the city shall implement the 2024 Electric Ready International Code provisions in the IEC code on a phased basis, with full mandatory compliance delayed until the city determines that necessary infrastructure is adequately prepared. The city will establish a phased implementation schedule by July 1st, 2027, which will address infrastructure limitations. I don't know. Do you guys like the wording? Do you have a problem with the wording? I mean, any comments? I mean,
I'll wait till the end. Councilman?
So, how, I mean, I understand what you're going for, but how is that under a safety clause? Does that need to?
It's kind of, if I may, Mayor, it's kind of a catch-all provision that is
Okay.
generally just titled a safety clause. I know it doesn't seem like it's dealing with safety of individuals, but it's kind of used broadly there.
So it's a good place for it to set, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And from your standpoint, Les, do you have concerns with anything there?
I don't. In fact, I really like the first paragraph that Councilman Peters read. The second paragraph I've got a neutral on, but I do not have concerns.
No, I really like it, and I'm grateful for you putting in the effort to do that. I think
I'm happy to.
maintaining the local controls incredibly important, and I'm glad that you did that.
And you understand the knowledge of it, so that's really great.
I might have a further question. I'll wait.
Councilman Venor?
So I think this is what I expected as far as how much time we get to be bought. It's basically, we don't know when it'll be, but we know it'll be by July. That will be, we have to have a plan to then, and hopefully that will meet with their approval and buy us a little bit more time to come up to speed. That's the proposed goal, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I think it says what I understood that it would say. So, but I think this first paragraph is pretty well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Shu.
Yeah, I think you did a good job there, Tim, of having that in there. I think that's the wording that we were all looking for, so more clarification. My only question would be, talking to the fire chief and Jeremy, do you see anything issued that would make any difference in what we want on this? Or are you pretty satisfied with this too, because you guys are gonna do the ones enforcing that? So speak up now, or that's it.
No more.
I think on the fire side, my biggest concern is the WUI at this point. All the others I didn't have concerns with, and so I brought the WUI in front of you, not the actual 2024 International Fire Code. Excuse me, because I didn't have an issue with that one. So, I'm good.
Yeah, on the building side, I'm good too.
Councilman Rossetti?
No, I don't have any problem. I am gonna stick with my guns and say we keep the 2018 code. That's my choice.
Councilman Patricio? Thank you, Councilman Rossetti.
No, I don't see any problem with the addition of this fast, which is pretty good. So thank you, Tim, for putting in that effort. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I love the team spirit that you all have shown by looking it all over. I will entertain a consensus then to direct staff.
I had, if I may ask
Sure.
one other question. So, I mean, this obviously really dovetails right back into section 5.6 under D, which we read, right?
Yes, yes.
So, speaking specifically, some of the things that this is addressing is the need for, say, making every garage updated to electrical, having an electrical outlet for a car, correct? I mean, a rechargeable car. So if it's deemed that the infrastructure of Trinidad would not handle that, and we make that limitation here locally, we will have the authority to do that as implemented?
As long as the implementation plan addresses the need over a period of time. That period of time could be a decade, it could be more. So the idea is that the state of Colorado has granted us a waiver to implement electric-ready provisions over time. And we get to set that implementation schedule as long as City Council studies that and adopts it by July 1 next year.
Okay, but what that means is, let's just, again, using the same example, hypothetically, we say, hey, we do not have the infrastructure to support that, but here is our plan to, at some point, support that.
Yes.
What will the status be of requiring the outlet in the meantime?
So the homeowner would have the choice to add the panel and be ready for that when we're able to provide it, or we would accept building plans that didn't meet those requirements until we're able to provide them.
Okay.
And the implementation plan will start pretty immediately if you choose to adopt this on the 16th. So we've already set together a committee that will start working on that. I believe council had commissioned in the past, perhaps you remember, a CLP did a study of our entire electric infrastructure. And so we've evaluated what we have, and we know what we can't do. What we haven't yet done is evaluate what we would need to be able to provide electric-ready provisions. So that will be next, and it's possible in looking at the mapping that certain areas of town would be ready before others. Depends on the infrastructure improvements that are needed, the funding we're able to allocate toward them.
Okay.
But if you came in tomorrow with a building permit for an electric-ready home and we can't provide that, we would be able to say we can't provide that, here's what we can provide, and you would build what we can provide now.
And alternatively, we would not force someone to provide electric ready if we couldn't.
That's what the waiver is for,
Okay.
yes.
I just wanted to verify that. And then I have one other question, if I may. hopefully I can articulate it well enough that it can be answered. So when Sam from TJ's was speaking, he mentioned that, the code, enforcing the code is fine, but it's how it's interpreted locally. Do we have some plan, whether it's in this language or some plan internally, that we will ensure every local contractor a level playing field in, like that blower door test? If we're not planning, if we don't have the equipment, or we don't have the plans to enforce, hypothetically, that blower door test, is that going to be widely known and something that a contractor can get their hands on so that they can compare apples to apples when bidding against one another?
And I think consistency is our goal. So as we implement the 2024 code and we use our commercial inspector to review the building plans that are coming in, if we feel like we need to amend those plans to take out a requirement, such as the one you mentioned, we would be back. Our intention is to hold across the board contractors to the provisions in the 2024 code. But we also realize that this is an organic process. And if we need to come back to council to say, we're running into this particular situation and we'd like to amend the code, and we'll be back to do that. I don't know if that exactly answers your question. I would say the level playing field is our goal.
Okay.
Consistency is our goal. And then in your previous question, I just wanted to say the one thing about the plan for you to think about is if we do bring an implementation plan to council, if this is approved and we bring it, and it says that in 2030 we should be able to provide this, then we'll need to budget toward those infrastructure improvements to provide it. So I'm just preparing you that the implementation plan will set out a budget schedule over the next years to actually improve that infrastructure.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay. Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay.
One more question. We did receive an email that stated that a waiver wasn't granted because it wasn't granted to anybody else. What was that about?
So we do have a waiver. We don't have it in writing. And the reason we don't have it in writing, and I think what drove Councilmember Peters to create the language, is because it's not being broadly offered across the state. And in fact, to our knowledge, there's only a handful of municipal power corporations. And to our knowledge, Fort Morgan was requesting it. I don't know if they received that waiver or not. To my knowledge, we're the only ones
So
that
we do
have.
not have a physical waiver, just a...
We do not have a physical waiver, and they're not
Thank
issuing
you.
them. I believe the language is the additional protection we were looking for.
Thank you.
Acts as a waiver.
Well,
Does anyone else have any questions?
This green highlighted area that talks about the commercial and residential model electric, are we saying the same thing in both paragraphs?
we
So
are.
that paragraph right there says the exact same thing that I wrote for the second paragraph. So it seems to me that one of those paragraphs could disappear.
Well, this one, I think, needs
Tell me why. I mean, I'm wrong if I'm missing something.
I don't think you're wrong. I think the question is redundancy a problem? This needs to stay in the green area because that is codified in the code and it's the language that they gave us to use for our waiver. That's what they agreed to, that language there. Having it in the safety clause as the city attorney, that is our protection, that is our statement that this is what we're going to do. So unless Mr. Jones has a different opinion, I don't see a problem with redundancy.
I agree.
It just sounded the same and I
Sure.
kind of
Thanks
like...
for
Redundancy is our friend.
Okay, now I need a clarification on, okay, for the electric ready, we have an implementation plan that we've been talking about. You've been talking about that over and over. What about some of the implementations that we're not quite ready for on the 24 code for all of us contractors and builders and stuff? Are we phasing in that as well?
What you're adopting here is the 2024 code, which becomes the code of the city of Trinidad, and our commercial building officials will review plans to that code.
And does our local control come into tempering some of those code issues and buying us time?
If you had an issue with a blower door test, then council could amend the ordinance when staff brings that forward and says, we're having an issue with builders meeting this particular requirement. I'm not sure we can stand in front of you today and identify all those issues until we actually have it in action.
And that's why I'm asking the question, that if we have an issue, how do we handle it? Are we handling it? Because some of the language got changed to the city of Trinidad.
You are the city
We
of
are?
Trinidad.
No, I'm just saying, I just wanted.
You are. And city council can amend the code to, for example, we have historically amended the sprinkler requirement out of the residential code. Every time we adopt a new code, and you'll see it in here, we amend out the requirement for sprinklers in residential areas. That's very cost prohibitive. We have all the way back to the previous and the previous and the previous code. We've done that. So as we're evaluating these requirements, we can bring forward amendments. Contractors can suggest amendments.
I went through, I spent a couple hours going through all the comparisons. You guys see that in your packets? If you look through the packets and see what changes from 18 to 24, you go down that line. And I think my wife and my kid were tired of hearing me going, shit, that's gonna cost more. Every line item, it says, what we're gonna get better windows, better insulation, we're gonna get better everything. But right down the line, everything costs more. And I mean, you guys look at it like that and go, oh, well, that's great. What's that mean? Oh, better appliances, better controls, more lighting functions. All it does down the line is cost more money. Anybody that says that it doesn't, just please look at those comparisons and go through it. It's scary. So, I don't know. I've got the language that I want put into it. We have studied and talked about it hard. I don't know what else to do to it. It's either that or go just dig in on the 18. So I don't know. That's it.
To me, it's a very difficult decision, but based on, and I can really appreciate Sam's point of view that we will have a much better city new houses or building by following the ordinance and safer. So I can appreciate that we're working on the building code in stages for the areas that seem like it's really hard. Again, that is not on construction that is for current homes that are out there. It's only for new construction. And we got a bunch of new construction going on.
Okay, Mayor, so what I'm hearing is to bring it forward as presented today.
Can we entertain a consensus to place the...
We are going to have residential to...
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, we will do so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Did Joe come?
Yeah, he's here.
Oh, there he is. Item number 1, that's number 2. The lodging tax ordinance discussion for an overview.
Mayor, I believe our Lodging Tax Advisory Board's here. They requested the item on the agenda. They're interested in seeing an amendment to the ordinance. What staff has brought forward is the ordinance that was proposed last summer. So this is just a work session. We haven't made an introduction. If council would like to see any changes beyond what we've presented, happy to do that and bring it back for a second discussion.
Sure.
I don't know if you want to hear from Lodging Tax first, or it's your pleasure.
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
thanks, Ms. Marshall. Yes, we would love to hear from the tourism board.
Hey everybody, good to see you again. So I'll just give a kind of brief summary on our recommendations around this. I've got fellow board members here. I'm going to give them a chance to chime in as well. The first thing I do want to just mention, as most of you are probably aware, and some of you were currently seated, I came to council last winter. At that time, there was a vote on the agenda to repeal and replace this ordinance. I've had a couple questions about that from city staff, from other folks around the city or the community. Namely, well, why are you coming back and recommending that we change the ordinance if you just came and defended it? Just to be totally clear, I was not presenting to keep the ordinance in place. I was trying to keep the board in place. So that's what I feel most strongly about, is keeping some level of citizen involvement. We're supposed to be providing levels of expertise and oversight to this fund, which is a large fund. So I just feel it's really important to keep some permutation of the board intact, whatever decisions are made by council moving forward on this. I also know there are some larger discussions at hand regarding boards in general, and so some potential changes to this ordinance could apply to other boards and commissions. I do think looking at the boards wholesale is a good idea, but we have some level of urgency around changing this specific ordinance if council decides to do so, because we're looking at budgeting for next year. So we need to get those budget discussions moving pretty much right now, so we can come present them to you in the July to August timeframe ahead of the city's budget. So broadly speaking, I mean, you have a revised ordinance in front of you that Tara's team has drafted. But our recommendations from the board, big one is just wiping the percentage split on allowable expenditures. We think it's wise to still keep basically those same categories represented in terms of what's an acceptable expenditure from the fund. However, do away with the percentage splits, which we found to be overly restrictive. A great example would be our grant applications. The vast majority of those tend to fall in the arts and culture category historically. That's one of the smaller percentages of the fund. So, that's totally wiped out for the year. So we have to get creative or just turn people away on the grant front. We would want to see a hard cap on the amount allowed to be transferred to the general fund. I do believe it's the city's intent to do away with any general fund transfers long term, but that it may be still occurring for a year or two, if that sounds correct, Tara. So just in case that comes up again down the line, potentially years from now, still putting, a hard percentage on the amount that could be transferred out of the lodging funds to the general fund. Otherwise, the other ones may be more likely to apply to boards at large, but we discussed the issue of term limits. So we've had a couple members termed out, and then we're sitting without enough seats. Ideally we have at least 3, we're supposed to have 5. So having kind of a holdover period where if you're termed out, no one has applied, you can stay on the board unless you've resigned. And then making more explicit the various relationships at hand here. So between the board, the city manager's office, and council, there's some lack of clarity in the current ordinance, we feel, in terms of, we're an advisory board, we advise the council. In practice, we've been advising city staff more than anything else. And so some of that's on us to come report to you. That's probably going to be a quarterly cadence moving forward. However, there's a lot of decision making that's happening in between there. So just making sure that we make it super clear in the language itself as to how the board should be structured, who we're reporting to, what level of autonomy we have, that type of thing. So that's kind of where we landed in our meeting. I'll open the floor to my other board members here. I know they might have a couple questions on the ordinance.
And really, I think mine, Joe, was more in council, was really more to the establishing a percentage rather than a dollar amount on the reserve that could be taken out so that it feels a little more transparent and fair. So I mean, that was probably our first comment. And then the second was actually more of a question where it looks like we are going to be utilizing funds that are actually in and not just budgeted. But this doesn't start until 28. So what happens in 27? So, and I from this ordinance, I was unclear on that.
Yeah, I meant to add that, and that's included in the draft language where we're looking to transition from forecasting our budget to only using funds collected in the previous calendar year. Currently working with the city manager's office, we've been starting that transition, so cut back on our overall budget, building the reserve up. So ideally we can flip that switch in 2028, which is what is mentioned in the draft language. So there is an interim period there. Yeah.
So that's really all I have.
We're happy to provide context on that from our conversations. Okay.
Open for council discussion. Does anyone have any questions? Manny, you want to start with you?
Oh.
Councilman Trujillo?
Thank you for your input into the ordinance. I've looked over the verbiage, and there's quite a few changes that we would like to make some changes on it. Councilwoman Venora and I have been working on our own draft for council to review, plus staff and whoever wants to look at it. Councilwoman Venora, you have that copy?
I do. I'm sorry. I intended to make copies, but I had difficulties.
Would you like us to make copies?
Well, it's, if you'd like to, it's in track changes, and the font is a little smaller than what I would like. But what I did is I just took the ordinance off the drive, off the website, put it in a Word document, and then did track changes so people can see what I changed. So you can just see it there. But basically, yeah, there's a bunch of things that we discussed, and I would say the biggest one, I'm not really seeing, and maybe I'm just not reading it, but where are we talking about the 2028 stuff?
It was-
That's in the greater section of the ordinance, not in this, like the draft that Ms. Marshall gave us?
It actually was, it was number 3. Number 3 on that section where it talked about it being effective January 1st,
Oh, here it is, I see
2028.
it now, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I'm happy to provide
Pay
this.
as go, yeah, that's great. And I was, sorry, it was my understanding that you had put in the budget a pay as you go statement. So why, so if it's in there, that kind of superseded this year, so you would have to do that again to do it in 2027 before this 28 kicks in, or why did we pick 28?
So I'm happy to
Yeah.
provide that because we did add that from
Okay.
last summer. Joe and Audra and I were able to meet and discuss, and I found out something that I didn't realize. At one point in time, the tourism fund itself had a fairly large reserve. And previous city manager had asked the Lodging Tax Advisory Board to spend that reserve down. So when we came in last year, we ended up bringing in about $790,000 in lodging tax. But at the midpoint last year, we were really behind. We were only at like 360, 365. Some of you that were on the board may remember that discussion last summer. The overall budget was to bring in $805,000 was the overall budget for 2025 in tourism. We were feeling like halfway through the year we weren't going to be able to make it. So if we didn't get enough revenues in to cover expenditures, then we were already in a position in July or August where we had overspent the amount of revenue coming in, and without a reserve would trigger an audit exemption. So we took a number of salaries, 3 different salaries, out of the tourism fund on September 1 last year and moved them to the general fund. So we had unbudgeted salaries in the general fund for the last 4 months of the year, and that was in an effort for the tourism fund to catch up for those lodging taxes coming in, to catch up with the expenditures that were overexpended by August. We're going to have final numbers for you in a few weeks. We'll be able to say where we ended at 25. But without starting with the reserve, what last year's council looked at is we anticipated getting approximately $600,000 a year in lodging tax, because that's where we thought we were going to end. We actually ended up better than that. Our third quarter and fourth quarter last year were really good. So we budgeted $483,000 for spending. Council appropriated $483,000. We estimated we'd bring in around $683,000. So that would create a reserve of $200,000. So that is $200,000 toward the pay-as-you-go schedule. The thought in 27 is we would do something similar. If we think we're going to bring in $750,000 in lodging tax in 27, we would budget $550,000. So we would take $200,000 from 27 and put it in reserve. Now we've got a reserve of $400,000. So in 28, the tourism board or the lodging tax advisory board would start budgeting based on what they had collected. So in 28, you would spend what you collected by the end of 27 or 26. In 29, you would budget what you collected in 27. In 30, you would budget what you collected in 29. So somehow we had to get over 2 humps, 2 years where we could create a reserve again. Now that was the intent of last council. Prior to that, in every year prior, we would estimate the amount of taxes we were going to receive, and we would budget expenditures toward that. So, and we were very successful for decades in doing that. And we were growing every year until 2023, when we began to decline every year. Does that answer your question about why 28?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it does.
Once again, happy to take that out if you want to
No.
go back to forecasting.
I honestly don't know enough about the numbers and what happened over time, so I will defer to the experts.
This was a strong recommendation of our finance director, Cheryl Navarrete, at the time,
Okay.
and we followed it.
Okay. So there are some things that, I kind of saw, so you had the 25% for city operational, administrative, clerical expenses incurred in the administration and collection of tax authorized in this article, and operation of the trolley. Okay. The previous language included the Welcome Center, but I did notice that in the budget, that the Welcome Center had been funded, I think, out of the general fund?
We moved it to the general fund for 2026.
So you took it out of this.
We took it out of this, of the $483,000 budgeted for 2026, 100,000 of that 483 are being transferred back to the general fund. That's 25% to offset this year. Joe's correct. We talked about a declining percentage every year.
Yeah, because I felt like it's high.
25% is high.
25%. So I had a recommendation, sorry, track changes, of maybe 20% for tourism, I'm sorry, that's the wrong thing. Yeah, 20% for tourism-related visitor services. You have it worded a little different, so, but basically it is the things you discussed here. Convention and Visitors Bureau, I have conferences, conventions, meetings, special events, but what we're talking about is for operations.
We are,
Yeah.
and traditionally, the tourism board, when we operated prior to 2023, just for council's history, salaries and operational expenses were never allowed to come out of the fund. So that changed in 2023. That's also when we began to see a decline of the lodging tax, and whether you agree or not, we were making that connection between less money for advertising might have, and we were spending more money on operations. When we moved the salaries out last year, I think we were spending well more than 25% on salaries and operations, more like 55-60%. Although when we do the 2025 review, that will bear out, and we will disclose that percentage. So for 26, we set it at 25 with the idea of reducing it every year and trying to get administrative expenses down around 10%, which
So
is,
it's
or even lower.
Yeah, it's not reasonable then to put that in there, or every year we would have to come back and amend the ordinance?
I think you would have to amend the ordinance, or you do it through budget. You decide during budget, you're only going to allow this percentage toward operations.
Okay, and you did that, and then you took the 2% that used to be in, where is that? So basically, I think it came up to be 22%. And you've now increased it to 25%. Overall, it was 22%.
We would recommend for 27 coming down off of that. Once again, we gave you the ordinance we were anticipating for this budget of 25%. But we had spoken about reducing that annually. But that really is going to be your decision during budget.
Okay, some other things we looked at is we thought as a separate standalone category, and we did attach a percentage to it because we wanted to make sure it got in there. And that was maybe something like 5% for youth sporting events, tournaments, and activities that promote tourism and visitor activities. I can tell you, working in a shop downtown, a lot of times I would be in the shop and a family would come in and I would say, oh, what are you doing in town? And they would say, oh, we're here for our child's tournament. They're playing such and so. And so sometimes they would stay over for 2 days or however long the games were lasting and things like that. And we thought it would just be nice to actually have something tied to youth tourism, sports, things that bring people into town, because they do come into town for those events.
And the more we can advertise on those for them, like even when it goes through that's, you know, if we have a wrestling tournament or if we have Little League or anything like that, we can go through and you guys, and they can say, hey, we got a City League tournament coming up. Is there any way you guys can throw an ad in for us? You know, that's what we're looking at in that direction, because that brings it out there. Families are coming down, attach hotels, attach restaurants to that advertisement, something to keep them engaged so they know what's going on, even if we have a little brochure when we have the full-length tournaments. So that's kind of what we were looking at and kind of engaging that side, or even when we have the larger tournaments, maybe the banners downtown, you know, things like that, so we can pull that kind of thing. So that 5% really doesn't equal up to very much. So especially with what we're bringing in, if that's what we're looking to consider, if the rest of council thinks that's something we want to invest in, because we really haven't put any money towards youth activity, or really anything. So this is kind of another way. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I could chime in on that real quick. I do think it's a good idea. We've talked about that as a board before, if we could get money to the community center for things like Little League or what have you. I think it's more or less still well covered on 2B, and maybe you throw just a line in there that mentions, you know, youth activities in particular, in relation to quality of life, community enrichment through facilities and programs. So that currently just says events, capital expenditures, support of arts and cultural events. So it could also say sporting events or youth sports. I personally would rather not see any more percentages in there at all, and I think that would be something that when we sit down and talk to you about budget, you give us that feedback to say, hey, this year we want to see 5% of the budget going towards so-and-so. So that could change from year to year, and then we can also react to how the previous year went and adjust that on the fly instead of having a hard cap that's encoded in the ordinance. So ideally, we're not coming back in another 3 or 5 years and doing this whole thing again. So, you know, I think our goal as a board is just to build the flexibility into here, to be able to work with you guys, to work with city staff, and build that budget annually with your priorities, such as the.
Now, when we go through and we add, let's say if we do and we add it all in Compass, it can get depleted by the other organizations before that. The other way, it creates some type of reserve and some type of gain for that, so we can continue investing. That's where I'm kind of going at with that it has its own line item that is for that, and you can build that up.
Well, I think we could set that line item in the budget. So one thing I've talked about with Tara is for the budget that we'll be meeting on right now, setting a line item, for example, for our music festivals. So this issue that just came up ended up coming out of our economic development funds, but instead we would have that as a line item on the 2027 budget in the lodging funds that we set with you guys. And that doesn't need to be in the ordinance saying, you know, whatever that dollar amount percentage comes out to be is for music festivals, right? Instead, that is just a cultural program, and we set that as part of next year's
But you
budget.
still have to approve it.
Well,
You still have to
that
approve
leads to my other
Okay, I
point.
was gonna say, why don't we go down through all your points so that we can get
Oh.
a good understanding? Let's just go through all of them.
Well, the
You
other
want
ones
me
are
to
just
go
little
do-
housekeeping things.
I
so
can do that.
go-
I
okay.
apologize. Can you email that to Tara so we can
I
get
don't
a copy?
have it with me, I'm sorry.
You don't have it on, you
It
can't
didn't.
forward the email?
I can take a hard copy and just go make copies.
Thank you.
No? You don't want to copy
Oh,
your?
no, I don't mind if you take a
Oh.
hard copy. I just said, no, it didn't go through.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have it
Please,
that way.
thank you.
Sorry.
It just makes it easier for us to reference
Sure,
what you're going
yeah,
through, and I think
sure.
it's just easier for us.
It's kind of teeny print, so I was going to print out that small. Some of it is just me because I'm kind of like Tara, I'm not a policy wonk, but I'm a sort of
Well, I like-
a procedure wonk. So I went through and did track changes, reworded things.
May I ask a question while Chief's making those copies? Do you specifically want youth sporting events or youth events? Like, like recently, the theater did a production of Anne of Green Gables, and 80% of the people on the stage were kids, so would that qualify for something like this? Would it be
That
youth
would be up to
events?
council, yeah, whatever they would want to go, if they just wanted to throw the idea out there.
Yeah, we just wanted to
I
make
would
sure there
think
was, there were,
Youth events.
yeah, youth events, youth sporting
No, I
events as
love
well.
it. It's,
Like the Little League idea, there was a,
and the Wellness Festival, they did a family run, and they had, I heard, like 60 family members doing that with the Wellness Festival, which they centered on youth too. I just love the idea of every event having something for youth.
And next year, our plan is to market that even more
Yeah.
rigorously to youth, because we did have families involved, but we wanted more, and so we're gonna make it a little bit more attractive and affordable for families.
Because what I see out of that is like, for the example for that is the youth t-shirts, you know, that have the City of Trinidad logo on it, or Visit Trinidad on the back, you know, things like that. That's kind of how I'm seeing a lot of this stuff, you know, going through.
Right.
I would maybe want to call out recreational programming on that same area there, and that could encompass youth sports as well. So it looks like that's something I did get lost in this, on the previous percentage breakdown.
That is not even, it's not called out, recreational sports isn't called out.
Yeah, it doesn't have to even be sports per se, you know,
Just
that opens it towards outdoor stuff, but also
Recreational.
sports. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, so I would like to just look at the categories, because what I tried to do, to be quite honest with you, is I didn't want to insult people. So I took the ordinance as it was and went through it and did my strike throughs. But honestly, I kind of like your more generalized and briefer categories, Tara. I just didn't want to look like, hey, I can't stand your ordinance, so I threw the whole thing out and started over. But I do like the brevity that you had. So I think maybe what we could do is sit down with what you did and this, and then just kind of make sure the categories are covering everything that we have on here.
And we're happy to take your suggestions and incorporate them in.
Yeah, maybe we can all look through it and then circle what we like, what we don't like, whatever. But the big thing for me, and you know this, Ms. Marshall, is who the board comes to for approval of projects. And I would like to see that be council, not city staff. I think the boards are creatures of council. Council creates the boards. And I really feel that we should have control over the direction that the board goes. As you're saying, maybe we look at it at the beginning of the year and we say, oh yeah, we really want 10% to go here. Honestly, you presented to us, Joe, but at no time did any of us have any opportunity to approve or deny any kinds of the events. The first time I knew they all went was when I approved the bills that night. They were listed in the bills. That's how council was made aware of the programs that were funded. I don't feel that that's appropriate. I really don't. I don't think council has a lot of powers that we exercise. I think the boards are ours, and I would like to see us have more involvement with them. I would like to see us be able to approve projects and have them come before us and understand where that taxpayer money is going. It's not a trust issue, it's a governance issue. That is really the way I feel boards should be handled. They should be creatures, they are creatures of the council, and they should answer to council.
Okay.
That's what I
Let's
think.
go to
So
the
that's
second
one of the
one.
biggest changes in here that I see. And it's just language that I put in to make those things clear. One thing I did not put in here that I entertained, and I don't know how anyone else would feel about this, and that is, given that you have such a large budget, it seems, and I don't know how much we spent on advertising and promotional and marketing, but it did occur to me that maybe we could afford some more autonomy to the board and give them control over some of those decisions without having to come to people constantly. Even if we put parameters on there, certain dollar amounts, I don't know, something like that, so that you don't have to come to staff or council for routine radio ads or something like that when you're getting ready to ramp up for certain events and you know you need to do that. I don't know if that's feasible. I've looked at things and some boards in other cities do have that, ability to have their own kind of budget for administrative advertising, promotional materials, marketing materials, those kinds of things. So those are the substantive changes, the exact language I'm not necessarily married to, but that's what I'm getting to.
Thank you,
Is there
Councilwoman
something I
Venor.
left out?
The only thing was, because you had mentioned about quarterly reporting to us,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's not in the ordinance.
No.
So if we can add that verbiage somewhere in there that, that you guys, after you received your budget, after you've had your meeting and you're ready to come present to council, so this way we can get everything moving forward. But I think quarterly is when we get everything.
Oh, it's the last sentence. I did put quarterly in.
Okay. And then the other thing, I believe, I think it's in the other one, that you meet twice a month in your description.
Currently, yeah, we're trying to get to once a month.
That's what I was
Yeah, we
gonna
were
ask, that would be something that we can change once a month, because that also takes a little bit of stress off staff for taking minutes on that part of it, we're having.
Oh, I see.
Oh, do you? Okay, thank you. Wonderful, wonderful. Just wanted to be
Sophia's
clear.
about that.
Oh, so give
Yeah.
you a break on minutes for once, instead of every 2 weeks.
A lot of that has been due to, we've got a lot of board turnover, getting everybody up to speed, all these changes, et cetera. So we just haven't felt like we could move back to once a month yet. So, but that's the goal.
Okay.
Well, I do have one other thing. So you mentioned something, so I see Chris is standing up here. I know that your term expired. And so I know you mentioned something about if somebody's term expired, they'd just be able to stay on. Wouldn't that just be the way we reappointed you just last week? You didn't necessarily come before us.
Yeah, I was
We
actually
just kind
consent
of,
agenda.
yeah.
I don't believe that's the standard protocol.
It's not, but we did it that way.
We have
So
done
is
it
that
with
what we're
chairs.
talking about that?
We've done it with chairs, we did it with Sunny Leone, we've done it with other long-term members. Put it on the consent agenda, we've never put a new member on the consent agenda, right?
But for like a reappointment, is that what you were talking about, Joe?
Essentially, in practice, that would work the way we envisioned.
Well, the thing is, we have to seat the person somehow.
Mhm.
They can't just keep rolling over from the end of time. So
Sure.
we have to have some process that would look at, like, how would you do that? So that's all.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's something you can work on, Terry?
We
If that's
can,
something you
and
wanna
for
do?
clarity, Chris is still on the board. The website is wrong.
The website.
The two terms that expired were Joe's and Kyle, who had already resigned. So right now, we have 4 members of a 5-member board. The 3 here today, and Chris and Luann are 2028, or Chris and Eric are 2028, 29.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And so, and then we've got a 27, which is the open seat. No, that'll be 20, I'm sorry, we'll get it to you.
We'll figure it
I'm sorry. Let me just stop.
Okay, yeah, got it.
We'll get it to you.
Okay, thank you.
But we can work on that, and we can also work on getting out the notice that your term's expiring 90 days in advance, so that you might see them for reappointment prior to, and that would also give us a chance to advertise if we backed it up a little bit. So there are some things in
Yeah.
all boards overall that I think we can do a little bit different.
Okay, that's
And
great.
then I think we'd love to see your notes, and then we would want to, I agree with all the statements that it's a little bit vague. So
Mhm.
if council wants to approve the projects, great. Let's approve it through the budget. Let's make it clear what lodging tax needs to bring in front of. Then I feel like the staff role is in managing the contracts.
Yes.
So if they're meeting once a month, you're meeting twice a month, and we've got radio ads and a contract, somebody on staff needs to be managing that contract. So, and, clarity on things like you would approve the billboard, so we're gonna do 2 billboard contracts, great. But then we've also gotta approve the artwork and do those types of things, so I assume that could fall over in the staff side and in concert with the board.
Yeah, I'm talking about the
Okay.
actual expenditures. So if you've got a
Great.
list, Joe came
Okay.
before us, he had a list of things. Nothing on the list that I went, no, I would never approve that. I would, but I feel that council should have a say, and we should know before we just see it in the bills.
And I think
That's
we
all.
could look up and down the boards and commissions for that as well. But that helped, that clarity, it's the expenditure that you want to approve, that helps
Yes,
a lot.
I think that then.
I just don't want to be bringing like,
No, I don't need.
Do you
to
like
have
this
an
design
audition
or
on-
this
No,
design?
I don't need that. I just feel that since we seat the board, since we are the finance people,
okay.
I feel like that we should know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have one more thing for consideration, and if we're on this ordinance. The one thing that I was really wanting to council to consider was reverting the name or changing the name to the City of Trinidad Tourism Board, opening it back up to where they're experts in tourism, they're able to advance and visit other places, because the way that it looks like here, you are only advising us on how to spend lodging tax. The other way would advise us on what we need billboards, what we need radio ads, what we need to draw tourism, what we need in sporting events, what we need, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe the name does have a lot of power to it, especially when we're going to state for asking for different things and we're going to conferences. It does look nice that the City of Trinidad Tourism Board is sitting at a conference other than the Lodging Tax Advisory Board sitting there.
No, that's really great.
So if they're
I
willing to
appreciate
consider
that.
I would actually tag on to that too, and this would be up for debate, I suppose, but to make it explicit that board members have some level of tie into the industry or relevant experience. So right now, I believe it says preference will be given to, but still leaves the door open for people who may or may not have any level of expertise to be seated. That does limit the pool. I also know there are occasionally conflict of interest concerns there. But to me, if you have skin in the game, you're also going to be doing better work. And of course, you have the relevant experience. So something to consider if we would want that to be a requirement to be seated on the board.
And we have that on some of our other boards that actually they're required to have certain specifications.
The state board of tourism requires that. Those are such excellent points. Thanks for all of those, both of you. I really think that the tourism board works really difficult and it's hard under so many different constraints, including even what the city has done. I think it would be really great if there would be a program of what you thought you were gonna do mostly the year out before the year happened. And we already hear your program and tell you that we all love that idea, because it must be daunting if you work on something and then come to us and say no. I just want to make sure that your time is valued and heard. I don't know how that works out, but it would be nice to kind of know what's happening so beforehand, so we can say, yeah, that's a great idea, work on that idea.
It'd be nice, the pay-as-you-go strategy means that we could say, it looks like you're gonna have this much, and you could already
Yeah.
be working on next year.
Yeah.
And that would be part of the goal around the upcoming budget process here over the next couple months. So at our next few meetings, that's our primary focus, start talking about tail end of this year, 2027. So we have that budget set. So ideally, we're coming to you not just with categories that we want to spend money in, but the specifics, right? So we want to repeat that billboard, or we don't. We want to run ads with these publications, and that all falls under that budget.
Or you're gonna do a big youth thing this summer, and we're working on that. Yep.
I have a quick question, if I may.
Sure.
First off, thank you guys for what you do. I know it's a ton of work, and sometimes it appears unappreciated, but we definitely appreciate what each of you do, so thank you. I did have a question in general. What sort of hard deadlines for this whole process is there, Tara? I mean,
The charter requires that the department or the board have their budget to the city manager's office on August 1.
okay.
So they're about to start working on that. And then I meet with them. So I'll go to one of their meetings and we'll go over what they submitted. It comes to you October, the first Tuesday in October by charter. So by then, we should have already had this. You may remember last year, Councilmember Williams, we had the work sessions planned out to the end of the year. One work session was on capital improvement, tourism, economic development, and lottery. So we would have the tourism board available to answer your questions at that in October, early November. So if the first budget ordinance has to be read at the second meeting in November, that's the latest we can do the first reading of the budget. I think you want to amend this So we're not, once again, in a situation where we have an ordinance, we're not budgeting to that ordinance, and then we had this mess this year. So I would think if we can come back to a work session in June, I don't know if I'm answering your question, come back to a work session in June with a draft incorporating Councilmember Trujillo and Councilmember Venor's ideas, and you could have a second conversation. If you're comfortable, we'll go to first reading.
Okay.
There's no reason to hold it till October.
Okay, the other question I had, and it may not actually be part of this discussion or even be able to answer really, but I think it's important that we think about it. If we're attempting to build a reserve, right, that means we're not spending all of the money as we go, so we're able to build that reserve. Well, we're already fighting some fairly appreciable headwinds. An economy that's slowing, inflation, and so now we're actually intentionally further limiting our budget. And so if you made, let's say all the dollars that came in this year 100% and you're withholding 20% this year, now you've invested 80% for next year. Well, the returns, it seemed like it's going to be almost unavoidably and intentionally smaller. Do we have any idea how impacting that's going to be or plans to address that?
I think that's going to be a discussion in budget. I don't know if we want to try and get 200,000 of the income coming in next year set aside. You may say it's more important that we hold that 200,000 we saved from this year and that we put more money in right now while the economy is slowing, and that we have a $200,000 reserve and we actually budget more of what we're anticipating getting next year. That's on the table. We just need to make sure that we're not memorializing a pay-as-you-go schedule. If council wants the flexibility to say, I don't want to hold back for reserve this year, I think we need to spend more money.
And that's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, because we really, and you can't manage what you can't measure either. So we don't know what the rest is happening in other communities, and that's probably really hard to get. But any information we can get would be helpful. But again, thank you for
We
the
can
work,
do some
Christy.
research on the board front on that to bring back to you.
I think you guys see what I'm saying, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would also add some of that's question strategy. So, things we've discussed, like, could we break out our agency contracts into subcontractors and get more value out of that, for example? So, we might have a lower overall spend, but be accomplishing the same amount or more. So there's plenty of ways to address a temporary budget constraint like that.
Very good. Anyone else have any other questions?
I feel like we have a direction. Okay. We'll incorporate the changes, including the one Councilmember Williamson just suggested, and we'll bring it back on the 22nd of June, next work session.
Sounds great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Item number 3, anti-dilapidation ordinance and vacant property discussion.
Hey, if you can give us a second, Mayor, and Jamie, can you come forward, Nick? We've got our tables here. We're going to do something a little bit different with this. We've got a panel from our police department, our fire department, our development services department, our building department, and our code enforcement leaders. So we've kind of scoped out how we're going to walk you through this. So there'll be presentation and then pausing for questions. But first, I'd like to go down the line. Mr. Mason can start us out introducing yourself and what your role is at the city.
Nick Mason, city planner. I see you guys every Tuesday.
You should know this by now.
But I am head of development services, so we development services enforces the anti-dilapidation ordinance.
I'm Leandra. I work with the police department. I do community programs, e-discovery, and CSO admin stuff. I do their notices and everything.
I'm Tara Booth. I'm the planning assistant. I handle anti application, ordinance, and help with enforcement and all paperwork.
I'm Jeremy Mascareña, city building inspector.
Dave Backrack, your fire chief.
Manny Apodaca, interim lieutenant for support services.
Okay, Mayor, so we're going to start out with Leandra, and Tara, and they're gonna explain that they prepared the information that's in your packet. They're gonna explain both the vacancy ordinance and the anti-dilapidation ordinance. Which one would like to go first?
Either way, I guess. I handle anti-dilapidation, so I handle all the buildings. With ours, we currently have 39 of our buildings that are currently on the list that are active in some sort of process at the moment. 7 of them have been demolished in the last 3 years. 13 of them have been, are in compliance of some sort, like they've either had the notice and orders or they've had citations. And then 7 of them are problem children. They're the ones that don't want to listen to us, they don't answer us, they haven't responded in any way whatsoever. And we're probably heading to court with those ones. We have, in your packet, we have a list of all of those buildings with their addresses and what status they're in. I also included a list of our, it's like a time frame showing how a building goes into ADO and where it's, what length of time it takes to get through it all. And then we also have our ordinance, which we included, and then our procedures. It's a problem.
I will say, like a dilapidated building, the big difference there is the dilapidated is going to be like this, the structure itself. So there's, you know, the house is falling down, so it's going to be a safety issue more than anything. Sometimes we have issues with utilities, but yeah, that's where the dilapidated goes into. So a lot of them are vacant, but some of them aren't. Some of them do have people living in them, so they might be separate from the vacant property or the vacant property registry, which Leandra can talk to you guys about.
Okay. So Trinidad actually does have a vacant property registry that has been on the books since before I started here. I did not know about that it even existed until I started researching last year to propose a vacant property registry after seeing a post from the City of Pueblo's Code Enforcement on their Facebook. In 2024, with their vacant property registry, they brought in $91,000 in revenue, and they filed for $175,000 in liens just from their vacant property registration. They had numerous success stories of properties that have been vacant for decades being sold for the liens, from them not the people not registering for vacant properties and paying the fines associated with vacant property registry. And those properties have been bought up by developers, fixed, and are now inhabitable and being sold to people moving their families into them. We've got right now, I have 205 identified vacant properties. We went from 3 properties registered on the vacant property registry when I first started working on this with Tara, to now we have 30. Right now we are at a standstill. We don't know what the next step is. I've sent out notices. I've got 30 people that I've sent second notices to, and they've ignored them. I've got 30 people I've sent first notices to, but I don't want to move on to the second notices because I still don't know what to do with the people I've sent those second notices to. Are we issuing them administrative summons? Are we administering the administrative fine of $500? How are we reinforcing that administrative fine? Do I need to start invoicing them? We need direction from council. Yes.
What is the time period between the first citation before you can give a second citation?
30 days. And I started in October. I mailed out the first couple batches of notices and gave everybody till the first of the year. The first of the year came and went, so I mailed out the second batch of notices. Now we are well past 30 days for that, and I'm at a standstill.
So the properties that have been out there for years, that have had citations put on, are they behind in paying their citations?
Nobody has paid them.
I generally, for vacant registry, I get those more from real estate companies.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that generally will pay the $500 and they keep up on them. Regular citizens,
they weren't even registering. We did offer the people that registered, we said, hey, we had a vacant property registry. Nobody knew it existed. We are enforcing it. We're gonna waive the fee this time as long as you get your registration in. And we had 30 people register.
So, okay, that's a good question.
Yes, Councilwoman Venor, please.
So is that, I noticed on that list, is that the total list of vacant and dilapidated?
That is, the 205 are
No,
properties that I have
No,
been.
for my,
Oh,
for my list.
Yeah, in our packet,
Yeah,
there's a list.
that list is, those are ADO ones. Those ones have vacant and some of them are not. Her list is, ours are overlap, but not all the time. As Nick was explaining, some of my homes are dilapidated and there's nobody living in them, and that we put them on the vacant list. Some of them have people living in it and they're just a little bit falling down.
I was thinking specifically of commercial buildings that are not on that list you have,
Yeah.
but are pretty, everybody knows they're vacant.
Yeah, the 39 that I have that on this list, those have been active in the 3 years I've been here. I have another 90 buildings that were on the list before me. We are currently going through each of those buildings, or each of those houses one by one to see if they're still on the ADO list and need to be brought back on.
Again, you keep saying houses, I'm talking about commercial
I
buildings.
do both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I am talking about commercial
Yeah,
buildings.
we
'cause I see
do
that
both,
they're
and I
vacant.
have
And
cited
there's
some
no
of them.
fence around them, and there's none of the stuff, and some, I know there was one building that had a fire, and the windows were, they were supposed to be, I think I read in the ordinance that within 30 days, there should be new windows installed, and that hasn't happened. I mean, these are just, so that's why I asked
Yeah.
on the commercial ones too. This is under both.
Oh, they're
Yes.
for both, yes.
Okay.
Yes, the vacant property registry does include commercial buildings as well.
Okay, yeah.
But once again, we're at the point we can't enforce it. Last year, I sent out 663 violations for weeds, hazardous growth, junk accumulation, and scattered municipal waste. 239 of those were at vacant properties. 40 of those, the owners did not abate, and the city had to pay contractors to abate. As of right now, none of those invoices have been paid by property owners. So the city of Trinidad is just out that money because we can't track down these owners. They're not taking care of their properties.
Is there anything that is issued to the owner of a property if these arrears go unpaid for 12 months or longer, da-da-da, so that they could
We put a lien on the property, that's all we can do, and then it just kind of sits there until they sell the property.
So there are liens on all these properties?
Most of them, yeah.
And I also want to touch on the public safety issue that this is creating. I believe Leandra pulled also the data on police
Yes.
calls.
Yeah, that's on that's on the list, that's the last
Lieutenant
call.
Apodaca can also speak to that, and then Chief Baccarat can talk about that one facility that burned and where we are there.
Well, I know we've addressed this a couple of times while I've been on the last 2.5 years. We've had conversations on what we need to do to increase it, tighten it up. Honestly, the ordinance is written well. It's there. It's just us following through, which is the hard thing, is we need to figure out, we just continue to lean until lean until you own it, right? Until we see what we can do, or lean until we condemn it.
Pueblo is actually selling the liens,
Yep.
like back taxes,
No.
and so they hold on to them for their 12 months, then they sell them. Whoever buys the liens is responsible for curing the lien, foreclosing on the property, and assuming ownership of the property and maintaining it.
And that's a good program. And now we don't have that in ours, correct?
We have not.
We have not discussed
We're
it.
talking-
And I have talked with Pueblo and their code enforcement officers, and they've given me copies of their flow sheets and their work process and the steps they go through.
Because
It's
that
just-
would be a program that I think we need to move forward with, because
Yeah.
like I said, it's laid out in there pretty clear.
And I do have a copy of Pueblo's ordinance for selling the liens, and I would be happy to email and come talk about at next work council something.
Well, and there's municipalities all the way up the Front Range and counties that have been going through and actually being more aggressive on these because they're seeing the problem. And it's literally littering their cities.
Yes.
Just inactive business owners, building owners, inactive residential owners, that are just sitting on these things and just letting them decay. And it's ruining the rest of our, everyone else's properties.
Some of the things I would like address in the current ordinance,
Yes, ma'am.
it states specifically that it is properties with buildings without utilities. I think we do need to amend that language to include undeveloped and empty lots and properties with utilities, because there are properties with utilities that are vacant and nobody's taking care of. They just have the utilities on.
I like that.
Okay.
What,
I
why
like
are the empty lots?
Does this also go to the lots out at the industrial park?
If they are
In the city limits.
anything in the city limits and the empty lots, because I have sent them repeated notices to take care of their properties, and they're not. So the city and the taxpayers are eating the cost of taking care of their lots.
For weed control, you're saying? Okay, I got you.
For weed control, for safety, for so many reasons.
Yeah, some of them are campers, some of them put tents up on them, we've had to deal with.
The police and the fire
Can you
and our
provide some
services.
of the law enforcement responses that are being triggered from the vacant and ADO properties?
For us, it's fire,
Trespassing, suspicious
Trespassing.
persons,
drug
Really
use.
a wide range of crimes are coming across. So really, I mean, they kind of ebb and flow with the frequency that they come in. Sometimes we'll be at a certain house 5 to 6 times in a row, and then we'll address that situation and it will go away, only for it to come back up because the house is still standing.
Yep.
So
and
it's a vicious cycle that we're all kind of caught in right now.
and outside of the criminal activities that take place at these vacant properties, they also attract a lot of nuisance pets, like the raccoons, the skunks, mice, rats. These are vacant, unmanaged properties.
And Leandra, I believe you pulled the amount of calls for this.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
on the last, on
It's on
the
Terrace.
list, and it's at the column on the edge, gives
Thank
you
you.
all of the police calls to those locations in the last 3 years.
So quite a few to certain
Yeah,
locations.
and I would like to, for vacant properties alone, for mailing the notices, last year on just the vacant properties, I spent $2,000 in postage just to mail
Wow.
notices. That does not include our cost to abate these issues.
So, we all agree, I believe, that we have a dilemma with this.
I can share my list.
What other tools do you need to make sure that it's enforced?
I need the approval and saying, yes, this is the next step, start the next step. I need some training on how to complete the next step. And down the road, I might need additional help, staffing wise, with maintaining it, getting out there and getting these enforced.
And Mayor, we're looking at the trainings, but we will need some amended on the ordinances, particularly if you want to sell the liens and/or the proposals that staff is making on changing the ordinance.
Yeah, since I started with the city, I've seen what a huge problem this is, and I'm willing to step up and do the work that I can do.
Thank you for all your work.
For us, it's just next steps is our problem.
Yeah.
We hit like a wall.
We have,
I can send them to court, and I've sent a few of them to court, and all they do is they pay the fines and then right back to there's no forward movement. We've got a couple houses that they've gone to court a couple of times and paid
And which court is that?
municipal, they're going to municipal. The only one we've sent, then 508 University that we just got demoed, that was one of our successes. That one went to district court thanks to our nice city attorney over here.
Love you.
We had to get a nuisance to get that one knocked down, but it's not in our possession, we don't own it. It just, we demoed it, that cost us, which is on here, we paid $25,000 to demo that house. And now we just leave it, and that's all that's
Okay,
gonna
we're
happen.
leaving the 25, yeah.
So we can talk about demoing and maybe some of the hurdles that we have in that program. In particular, I want to talk about the burned out house.
216 Goddard, that house is the one that caught fire twice. The owner has gone to court twice, but this last time the court case got thrown out because he lied, and stated that somebody else owned it, and he didn't take possession of it, and that company came out and literally stated they never owned it, never was in their possessions. It's back to being under his name again, but we cannot do anything to that property because we quoted it out $118,000 to demo that house because it's an asbestos spill.
and right now, we can't abate the weeds on that property because of the asbestos. We can't safely have anybody go on that property.
And the reason they're saying is asbestos spill is because of the fire. We had an initial fire in the outbuilding, we had that put out, they didn't tear it down. Then we had our second fire, it moved from the outbuilding to the main house. And then the outbuilding's on the ground, the house is still standing. But because that outbuilding is on the ground, that's why they're considering a super spill of asbestos. Yeah.
So this is a vacant property that became an ADO, and our process didn't work, and then it caught fire. And now it's gonna be extremely expensive to deal with.
No, with any of these programs that we're looking at, are we able to assist any of these lien buyers with brownfield? Is that a way that we can?
Brownfield's usually
Just
limited to commercial.
Okay.
So, yeah, they don't
do residential.
No. We have had some conversations recently. We're not the only community dealing with this. So we've talked with actually DOLA. DOLA had me and Terry present on our process about a month ago. And then we've had some other calls too from DOLA that it looks like they might be trying to start a program and it not limited to commercial, which would be great. Like I said, we're not the one community dealing with this. So they might have some stuff. That's what we're hoping. That's why we've been so eager to talk to them. Say, if there's anything coming, we will be first in line to apply for some help on this stuff. It is very costly. Obviously, you can see those demo costs. And the hard part is the asbestos. If you could throw a zero in that cost, it's pretty cheap. You could knock down a house for $8,000, or a commercial building maybe for 12 or 15 grand. Those costs go through the roof, and you could end up with a small home that's cost $118,000 to abate. So that's the real tough part, and we do have a very historic city. So everything has asbestos for the most part, and that's where those costs really struggle. But yeah, I mean, you can kind of take those numbers and you look at trying to demolish a commercial building. It's probably more on the high side, and square footage. As that square footage climbs up, it just keeps going up and up. So it's very costly, and the hard part is there's not a big payback. We can lien the property, but when we lien the property for extra $50,000, the property's only worth $25,000. Who's ever going to be able to make that work? So that's the very difficult part. Is when the city takes on a demolition, we use people's tax money to take care of other people's properties.
Now, when people go through and they're paying their vacant ordinance or they're paying their fines, what account does that go into?
It's general fund.
Goes in the general fund.
Okay, so it sounds like we need to create a line item for that to be going towards this kind of rotating.
We can do that.
One of the things that we spoke about in the past is the fines. Our fine fee is very low on this, and I know we've had some issues with that. And I proposed some higher fees before.
Right now, it's at $500, which is in line with what Pueblo is charging for their registration fee. And right now, their administration fee for failure to pay is $500, which is in line with what code enforcement is charging for administration fees when we have to abate weeds.
So just for clarification, that's for the first month, and then if they don't do anything, then they get billed another $1,000 for the second month, is that correct?
So my ADO fees are different than vacant registered
Yeah.
fee. My ADO fees start at $250, and then we go up $200, then $500, then $750, then $1,000, and I can keep going. The problem comes into, I think honestly, they get the letter and they just throw it in the trash. They don't even pay attention to it. I've only had 2 people come in and pay their fines, and one of them just burned. So I don't think he's gonna be coming in anymore.
But we can't, but we still have to do it because.
Yeah, that's what I do. I go through the process with anybody who calls. Jeremy goes out and looks at it, takes pictures. As of today, we just had one go. He just went out to the property to look at it. I will start the notice and order. I'll send the notice and order. They get 30 days. If I don't hear a response from them, I send them a citation. That citation starts with the $200 one. 30 days after that, again, and then again, and then again. And then most of the time they'll come in that first one, hopefully, and they'll talk to us and we'll work with them. They'll get an anti-dilapidation agreement in place that they have a certain day in order to clean up the property or get the house into condition that it can be occupied.
So would you say that most of the success stories are people who you notice the first time and they come in and deal with it?
Yes. generally. If they get scared when they get that first notice sometimes, but then I've got others that just, they don't care. It's a piece of property, it sits there and it doesn't bother them.
We have one property owner, she's got
Eight?
at least 8 properties that are just sitting vacant, condemned, basically. We're sending repeated new weed violations and she doesn't care.
So shifting to solutions in your research, Leandra, you've thrown out the potential of selling these liens.
Yeah, if they're not gonna do anything with the property and they're just sitting on it, we need to encourage them to start taking care of their property or not have that property anymore.
Well, I'm thinking that verbiage might need to be added if no response is given to this, no matter what the fees are, after 12 months or 18 months, your property will be repossessed by the city of Trinidad or something that's,
So,
after so many
I have a
notices.
quick,
being
I have a quick question, if I may. What's that? I was aware of tax sales, but quite frankly, I was not aware of a lien sale. Is that regularly done? Is it well known?
It is, and it works just like the back taxes. The cities post them in the same places that they post the back taxes for sale.
I'm glad she answered, because I didn't.
I'm very passionate about this and I don't.
Will you corroborate that answer?
Yes, yes, I will.
And so how often does that happen, just to clarify the complete answer?
In Pueblo right now,
Uh-huh.
they release them for sale in small batches.
Because
Like, so they've got $175,000 in liens, so that's typically $1,000 per property, and they release 4 or 5 at a time.
Yeah. To your point, if people are aware they could lose their property simply through that, they may become more responsive. And I personally think we should put as much teeth to this as we can.
Absolutely, we want the best community we can get, and if you're not living in the community and not caring about the community, we have to be the better parent. They need a better parent. Take it away from them.
But Leandra, if I might, Mayor, I don't mean to interrupt, but are there downsides to doing that? Like, the city's not going to get the same amount of money for the lien?
No, we're not gonna get the same amount for the lien as we have on the property, but we're hopefully, by selling the lien, somebody who is gonna take care of the property is buying that lien, and we are not gonna have the continued cost associated with that property.
And we will get money for
We
the sale
will
of the
get, we
lien,
can
it
set
just
the
won't-
amount, say we wanna
Yeah.
sell the liens for 75% of their value. Then somebody's potentially being able to pick up a property for a few $1,000s and then rehab it.
And just to clarify what Councilman Williamson said, is that are we currently having lien sales in our county?
We are not.
No, we have not.
Okay.
Los Angeles County does tax sales, liens, or like auctions.
But we're about to start.
We've been trying, like with the 508 University, we were hoping demoing a house and showing that the city went through that whole process might be a kick in the pants for some other people to realize that we actually are doing it seriously. And maybe that will help them start to realize they need to take care of their properties. A lot of times it's a family member got the property, they don't have the money to take care of the property, so it just sits there. I have others who believe that that is their family legacy and they will not let it go.
And we have others that we call, the property owner that lived in the property passed away. All their kids say, no, that's not my property, nope, that's not my property, nope, that's not my property. We have family that we've been dealing with that for the 4 years that I've been living there.
So what output do we need today to move forward?
So we're gonna look at, I've seen a lot of you shaking your heads. I think we'd like to bring back some ordinance changes that strengthen the conditions for someone to lose their property if they don't deal with it. It will include these liens, it may include some other provisions. I do wanna just say on the opposite side of selling, there's very little downside I can see to selling liens because that might put it in the hands of someone else who will rehabilitate it.
Les did point out one potential downside. Once somebody buys a lien on this property, if we have future issues, who has to take care of that issue then? Do we lose our power to go in and debate a weed issue? Who are we contacting for that?
Sounds like
So that's
that's
something that we will have to
Purchases the
research.
lien,
Yeah,
whoever's purchasing the
it's-
liens
yeah.
becomes a responsible party.
Yeah. if you do not do your share, you've lost whatever you have until you plus your.
It's unclear at this point whether the person who purchased the lien would actually be responsible for the property until they're the owner. So we'll have to walk through the legality of that. The other side of it, and just to something that you said, Mayor, we want to put so much pressure on that eventually they lose their property. I want to be really careful that we don't end up owning properties that we don't have the funding to rehabilitate, keeping in mind that capital improvement money can't be used for demolition. We got that audit opinion several years ago. Capital improvement has to create an improvement on an asset that we own. So if we end up owning the money, that's a general fund expense for demolition. So how do we thread that needle where we don't necessarily end up owning it, but someone responsible does? I think that's the needle we're trying to
I do
thread.
think we
That's where-
can do that.
I think that's where you work that verbiage into where it says, you know, by purchasing these liens, you're responsible in a certain amount of time, right? Isn't there a way to do that?
Councilman Treville, I believe you're right, it's gonna have to be phraseology.
So
Councilman Williams?
I had a quick question, and I don't know the answer to this, but I think some people that are more knowledgeable, and that sounds like you guys have a lot of the knowledge, but we should very, very clearly understand, and this is what we're alluding to, unintended consequences of what we're about to implement, so that, because we don't want to step into an open manhole after this is done.
Right. I think let us look at this.
Yeah.
We'll do some research. Les will do some phone calls, and we'll see if we can get some ideas of what exposure we're having. And
I just think the safety to our community and a house that may be used for people for illicit use and other reasons, the strain it has on the police department and the fire department is a real serious cause for us. And
I think, let me ask council this question. So we've got vacant properties that may or may not be dilapidated. And then we've got the dilapidated properties. I want to understand clearly where your focus is. We can use some of these tools for both, but is your focus on the vacant property that is not dilapidated? Or is your focus on the dilapidated properties that are vacant or not vacant?
I think there's a combination. It's the public safety issue and the issue that bringing down neighborhoods and creating, ruining neighborhoods, ruining street. If you have 5 nice houses and one of these that's boarded up and we got people living in it, that ruins the whole neighborhood.
And that's clearly understood. I'm talking about the vacant property that's not dilapidated.
So with us, with what we realized when we were going through this, is a vacant property, if we catch it early enough, we can stop it from getting to this point. If we had stopped 216 Goddard before and demoed it before the fire, we wouldn't be looking at a $118,000 bill.
But that's a dilapidated property.
Yeah, but it was vacant originally. It's been 10 years that it's been being dealt with.
So with the vacant, it sucks because we have to be more aggressive and, you know, taking a toll when we're driving around, like, hey, no one's been in that property for a couple months, maybe we need to do a knock and check.
And I will say, my code enforcement officers are great. They're out there, they're finding these properties, they're not necessarily vacant, but they're weed violations, they're junk accumulation violations. Then through the process of sending notice to those, I'm noticing this property is vacant. That's putting it on our radar. I'm able to email it to Tara, hey, we just found this property that's vacant. We need to start watching this property.
So that's the answer then, both.
Yeah.
So I think on the vacant,
There's
we
the
need to up the fines, just give it a little more teeth to it, so it's a little bit more. Like, you love it. I know, every time we're just like and I'm like, but that's the only way that we're gonna send a message that we're serious. You know, is the way that I'm looking at it. I don't know if anyone else feels that way. But also, I think I remember in the dilapidation in the vacant property, this is vacant property, and when I remember I had asked, does that include commercial?
It does.
Yes.
It does,
Right,
yes.
so property encompasses all, but in there is kind of a loophole that I wanted to close. I don't think there's a number in there, the percentage of capacity. So you could go in and occupy 10 feet of the building and say it's no longer vacant, and just put a small office.
Well,
You know, we
actually-
want to make sure that it says like 75% of the building.
Is occupied.
Multi-unit, anything like that, if it's on one piece of property. just to make sure that it is actually occupied, because you could have one storefront and 4,000, 5,000 square feet of
Unused.
and falling down, either way.
I hate to say go to Google, but if you Google vacant property, it says you can identify it from the outside as being vacant through being unkept, the weeds, that sort of thing. So it really does pull in the ADO.
Right, so we just need our ordinance to reflect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to update the ordinance, honestly, and then, I don't know if upping the fines will help though, because like I said, I've only had 2 out of the 39 that I've said.
I love this panel.
The ability to enforce the fine.
Yeah, it's the ability to, because I've even sent them to collections, and the other two that I've sent to collections, nothing.
It's that enforcing the fine and being able to take that next step.
Yeah. So when we get the
That's what we
75% lien, if they owe us $100,000, then at least we're getting $25,000.
Okay.
Versus $5 from the sale.
Councilman Rossetti, do you have any input or questions?
No, I don't, I just believe what they're doing, because
We're concerned.
what we're doing is what we need to do. We
Councilman?
gotta step forward and make them do something.
Yeah.
I can't say what I wanna say, but do something or get off the pot. Pretty much.
We know what you were gonna say.
You know, but just to let them go, keep going, there's nothing, we gotta take care of business. If we have to sell lean, a little something's better than nothing.
Right now, all we're doing is pumping money into these properties.
Yeah, we're not
By
getting nothing
labor,
right
by safety, by, yeah.
now. And you keep doing the same work month after work, or month after month.
Right now, on my current list of outstanding violations, I already have, we're only in, the first week of June, and I already have 2 properties, and it's their second time on my list since the season started for weeds, and they're
Right.
both vacant properties.
So it's just continuous work for you.
Thank you. Let's have Sheila, and I'll go back this way.
You can go ahead.
Okay, now it's your turn.
Sorry.
That's okay.
What's the average liens you're putting on a house? Let's just say we got an average house in the neighborhood and you're leaning it. What are we looking at? I mean,
It
as
depends
a
on
number.
what needs done on it. If it is a weed violation,
10,000?
no.
Oh.
This one is $17,290.
And
Mine
they
are
ignore it?
more-
Yep,
And they ignore it.
yeah, this one is, this house is 1700 Arizona. It's boarded up, you probably have seen driven by it
Oh,
multiple
yeah.
times. This one has been lean, yeah, it's $17,200 or $290.03.
Okay, so that's almost getting to be worth more than the value of the property.
And that's what it comes down to, is if
So-
it's too far leaned, it's
So,
not gonna help us.
I've heard stories, I have to do my research. What if we had a land bank? I know we don't want to be in the real estate business, but we make it hurt.
Land banking
And-
makes a lot of sense.
And then we can either buy it back from them, we force them to do something, or we put such pressure on them and then we make them an offer. Because a lot of these buildings aren't worth 20,000.
No, and then that's another issue we run into for demoing, is that we can get grants to help us demo the house. But the problem is we don't own it, we can't demo it. It has to be the property owner who does it. So we then can't
But
access
yeah,
those
but
grants.
also grants typically want to see the rehabilitation. They don't want to pay, they're not going to pay to knock something down. They want to pay to see it be built back up. So that's where grants are going to be tied into.
It's the cost of demo it comes down to.
The cost of demos is a big hurdle.
So it sounds like it would really behoove us to get these liens done early. Get this done,
Yeah,
get
well,
it early.
Los Angeles
get them
County,
at
you
lower
only
dollars.
put on the liens at the end of the year. They do it once a year.
Yeah,
You
we
can put in
just
a lien
found that out.
anytime. It doesn't affect the property until the next cycle for them, which is at the end of the year, when you get your property taxes. So that's when they assess your property, and they're gonna say, oh, by the way, you have a $4,000 lien. So you put that on your property tax. So that's when you can put them in anytime, but they're not effective until the end of the year.
So when you were talking about Pueblo, you have their model, you said you could get.
Yes, I'm not sure when they're putting their liens as far as that is. I was unable to get a hold of that person. That's an entirely different department, but I do have their workflow and who at each step is responsible for that.
But you don't necessarily have the results.
we're gonna need to reach out.
Yeah, I've got their numbers from 2024,
Okay.
but I have not reached out to them this year,
Okay.
to see
Yeah,
what
no, thank
Please,
you.
please.
Anyone
We
else?
can also look at the different things we're leaning for. We're leaning for weed abatement. If we have to board it up, we're leaning for that. If we have to board it up a second time or a third time. But we've never looked at calls of service. We've never looked at the cost of calls of service with police and fire and what that might look like. So is that something council would have an appetite for us to look at?
Absolutely.
I'd say
I mean,
every
yes,
avenue.
yes, absolutely.
And then there's the safety aspect that goes far beyond any other monetary aspect for our support staff in the city then.
And even at boarding up, I mean, OSB board is getting to be ridiculous.
We had to
get-
double the budget.
We used to get $500-600 in boarding up a house, and 3 days later, we're back boarding up the same house.
Yeah, they've gotten smart on it. Well, some of them have learned how to hinge the doors.
Mhm.
They hinge the plywood to make it so it looks like it's still boarded up, but it's
Right.
not. It's just open.
I'm gonna move to the other side of the table now after that. Okay, there's a house built, boarded up right over here, right across from Rally Point.
Mhm.
And I think somebody's living in the garage.
He's working on it. That's the contract, yeah, that's the
There's
owner.
somebody.
Yeah, he pulled a
okay.
building permit on it.
So let's move over then to 510 University.
Oh,
right around
that
the corner.
just got purchased by the,
No, hold on, no.
No,
We can't talk about that?
No, it's not ours to talk about. It did get sold recently though. So hopefully we've been working with the new property owner. So,
Okay, okay.
yeah, I need, that came in today, so just give us a chance to digest that, please.
All right, so the other buildings we see that are boarded up. And then we see people living in there.
yep.
And they got their bikes and they got their dogs.
yep.
Why is that happening so frequently? Why? What do we do there too? This whole issue is connected from the big stuff all the way down to the
Yeah.
little, and it's affecting our community. So tell me.
So I'll start with our camping ordinance. We pushed them out of our parks and pushed them into vacant homes. So we didn't really
We
do
said it was
it.
gonna happen, yeah.
All we did was push them from one place to another.
And if
So,
we can't locate.
That's a problem. And then when they do get into these vacant homes, then they start warming fires and burn holes in the floor. And then when it gets out of hand, then we're called, and then it's a big safety issue for my folks.
Thank you.
Because once they're already dilapidated, they're already falling down, and then you add fire to it, and that's degrading the building even more. So I really have to watch putting my guys into some of these houses, because, yeah, we signed up for risk, but
Yeah,
I
no,
need
I
to
get
manage that
you.
risk, right?
How do we nip this at the bud somehow?
you need to,
How do we get
deal with
control?
these buildings sooner, faster, before they get to where they're at today. And it's just I don't know how you do it. Listening to all this today, it's just a long process. Look how long it took us to get university down on the
So-
ground. And we don't even own it.
Well,
May I ask something? If,
you may.
I don't know how many of you saw the news article or news report, but in Georgia, they had a significant problem with squatters. And it used to be that the police would contact a squatter and the squatter would present a lease, and everyone knew it was fictitious, but there wasn't anything they could do at that point. It became a months-long process. But Georgia law, and granted that's a state, they just very, very recently changed the law, and now if they have a squatter, they're contacted by police. If they present the lease, you have 3 days to get it to court and move it. Is there a way that we could expedite people squatting in a building? Because that's what it is, it's squatting. Is there a way that we can change something to expedite the forced removal of people from that building?
Well, the only thing I can think of is like a trespass citation. You help me out here, Lieutenant, but like if you have somebody who's in a building, you can cite them for trespass, but you can only get a conviction of a trespass charge if you have a property owner saying that the person is trespassing. So, go ahead.
You know?
I mean, you can do the anti-camping if you find them and you know when they're in there, I guess.
Right. So that's the hard part is laws have changed so significantly to the other side of the spectrum that a lot of crimes that we used to be able to arrest on and take that person to jail is simply a citation now. And they're on their way onto another house. So really it's just...
I just think we need to be known in Trinidad for that we don't accept that sort of behavior and because we must be known that it's easy because it's happening more and more.
And I just want to say, this isn't just a Trinidad problem.
Yeah, oh, absolutely not.
It's a state,
Nope.
nationwide
Yeah,
problem.
world, yep. No.
That's one of the things on our vacant registry list, is it checks on there that it gives us permission. If that person's not supposed to be in there, we can kick them out. It gives us that permission now, that's why we want them on the vacant registry list.
And we want to know who we need to call.
And I don't think police or fire interacts with squatters per se.
No.
It's not that type of deal where they're gonna squat in your house and take your house over and say they have a lease.
Right.
It's not that.
I mean, it's similar too, though.
But one distinction in all of this is, and just want to point out that you said it, we already can't find the property owner. And so we can remove them and we can reboard it up, but we can't prosecute them without the property owner. The property owner has to be the prosecuting entity. So if we can't find them, there's no one to prosecute, and that is what is keeping this as a circle.
For trespass.
Isn't that correct,
100%
Lieutenant?
correct, yes.
Okay.
For trespass charge.
Trespass.
Yeah, we do have a good bit of orphan properties in Trinidad where there's no next of kin after an owner has died. And so these properties are just sitting there and there's nobody.
Is there not any sort of ordinance in effect already or could be in effect if no one has been in that house for X amount of years and it be part of our ordinances and uncared for and your cost for is up to this amount that we can just take it as in a land bank or a city of Trinidad? Is there? Yeah.
Les went to district court on a nuisance on the same instance where we couldn't find an owner.
I did, and that was for the purpose of getting it declared a nuisance so that we just really kind of paved the way for the remediation of the property, for tearing it down.
That would be Los Animas County's assessor, and that's with 508. It went up to auction for tax property.
So we took it down, and now they're auctioning off the lot.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Very good.
But that was a 4-year process. It took 4 years before that piece
Well,
of
we're just
property.
gonna have to figure out how to move forward, because not doing enough is not getting us where we need to be and for the safety of our community.
Okay, I think we're probably gonna need more than 2 weeks. We'll come back to you in July with suggestions for an ordinance improvement, but it sounds like I didn't hear any of you that didn't want to try and address this in some aggressive way.
But could I say, just as kind of a, just a final thought for me, and that is, that process we did really was a good process. And if we get any money for the sale of that, that will be wonderful, but we gave, adequate notice, did the legal proceeding, completely indemnified the city, had the property, completely remediated, and then it was all done and good, and now we're going to be able to do what we do to recoup the money. It was just a good process. And it wouldn't have taken 4 years if we had, just tried to do it faster. We could have done it faster, and the court process did not take that long. I'm sorry, that's just my commentary.
You think 4 years is okay? To
No,
clean up a property?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying it could have been faster, but no, I'm not saying that.
No,
Okay,
it was the tax lien that took 4 years, and we did it in a year to get the house down.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it might take, go ahead.
no, just the more we do it, the better we'll get at it.
Absolutely.
So the question for council is gonna be, do you wanna put money into a line item for demolition? Because we can go as fast and be as aggressive as you want, but we can't do it without money.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
I've been on this council for 12 years. And we've had the same problem, and it's gotten almost double from when I started. And if we don't start doing something, it's gonna double again.
Yeah.
And we keep talking about it, and we don't do anything about it. There's got to be a way to make the people that, now the persons that have passed on or stuff like that, and hard to find, but the people that do own those properties, like you've mentioned several times, and they don't want to do anything, there has to be some way to make them responsible, not just for that property, but some way to penalize them on their own property, so that if money's coming out of their pocket, they're gonna do something. Now, I don't know how that works, but that's the only way you're gonna solve this problem, is by taking money out of their pocket so they can get rid of the property. And we do need to put some money away to do some demolition. And we need to get on it as fast as we can, because like I say, we probably had 40, 50 houses when I first started. Now we're up to
205.
this amount, and it just keeps.
Thank you.
And those are just the ones that actually get it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna bring ordinance changes and budget recommendations forward. We'll start in July, so give us about 3 or 4 weeks.
Keith.
Okay,
Beautiful.
thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, everybody, thank you.
Leander, Tara,
Thanks
thank you
your
for
work.
the
Thank you, staff.
information.
Yeah,
Not a problem, yeah.
good panel.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
And if there's anything that you guys want me to bring that we didn't touch on to the next meeting, just shoot me an email and I'll make sure I have it ready.
Thank you so
Just
much.
let me know and I'll make sure we get it.
Thank you, thank you so much. Item number 4, fire truck apparatus discussion.
Chief Bacharach,
You're up.
That'd be me.
thank
You
you
should
so
keep your
much,
panel.
guys.
Mayor, council members, huh?
You should keep your panel.
I should just keep my panel?
Yeah, really.
So I dropped my lengthy synopsis of my issue in your drive. Hopefully you all have to read it, so I don't have to read it.
If you can read it into the record, we'll appreciate it.
So my biggest issue is my trucks are falling apart because they're too old. Trying to fix them has not proved any results. And now I have another one that won't pass pump test. And per ISO, per NFPA, that truck should really be taken out of service right now because it's not passing pump test, but I don't have anything else to replace it with. So, questions after you read my 2-page synopsis?
Well, the first question I was going to ask Ms. Marshall about the line item costs that were associated with our fire chief.
So these are unbudgeted requests. So they would have to come out of reserve, or they would have to come out of excess revenue. You'll be seeing first quarter financials in the next couple of weeks. Sales tax was up in January, down 42,000 in February, and up 2,600 in March. So we're still gonna be up for the quarter, but not enough to buy a truck. That's all we have right now. In May 15th, we got March sales tax. June 15th, we'll have April sales tax. We'll have a look at the next quarter. So I'm not saying we won't by the end of the year have enough money, but this problem isn't going to hold that long.
Sure. And on a new fire truck that cost over $1 million, would that be able to be paid in some sort of payments that you would think would be worth it to do, or how would we navigate through that large budget item?
How many years does it take to build that truck?
3 to 5 years, so it meets our specs. And I say our specs because we have to do engine work and truck work off of it, so it has to carry more equipment. So it has, the box on it has to be designed a little different to fit our equipment. Right now I have every nook and cranny on my truck packed full of equipment, even the back seat, because I don't have enough room. So
purchasing the new truck doesn't solve the problem. No. Because it's a 3 to 5 year build out. And right now we've got a ladder truck that doesn't work. So.
Are there any, like at one point for tourism, the trolley, we looked at leasing. Is there any leasing available?
In the general fund, leasing is not generally allowed because of Tabor. multi-year obligation, and the fire department is in the general fund.
And you and I had talked about that, but these other cities in Colorado are being able to do something with lease, so I'd like to, down the road, that's not something we can do
I
today.
had an audit discussion this last
Oh,
week.
did you? Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they're doing it, because one department just ordered 16 million in fire apparatus over the next 8 years.
As a lease.
Not as a lease, I don't know. how
They're
paying
probably
for it. I know
setting
they do
aside a
something.
number of dollars per year for it.
And that's one thing that the fire department hasn't had is a vehicle acquisition plan in my 28 years of being on the department. A couple of years I came before council, they bought me an engine and a Type 3 engine, which is still in production. I do know that it is in production. So at some point this year, hopefully we will get that, but that's our wildland urban interface engine. You approved that and Frank approved that, thank you. But now we're talking the trucks with the ladders on them specifically. So, and before I send one away for 3 weeks without having anything to back it up, I don't know if I want to put our citizens at risk in that time frame.
Yeah, that old museum truck with ranch still.
Yeah, but it
Museum,
doesn't have a
you
ladder
can
on
grab-
it.
You know. That's
See if
what
I
I
can get
did
it
for
started.
15 years.
What
Right,
did you used to do, Frank? Just hold the ladder?
Yeah, we cranked the ladder.
yeah, it's not on there
We couldn't
anymore.
get close enough to the buildings now, but no, it's really tough, and you're asking us to.
And I know
What do we
option
do?
one is kind of off the table. I really like buying that used engine to hold us over until we can come up with a plan on how you're gonna fund this apparatus replacement program. But if I can get something in and hold us for 5 or 10 years, crossing our fingers, I need something.
Yeah.
And in a summer where there's been a major drought, I am concerned.
So am I, that's why I want that Type 3 engine here. I keep calling that guy every week, like, where are we at?
So Chief, what is your recommendation? You said one, you kind of understand we don't have 1.6 million,
Yeah.
and we don't have 3 to 5 years to wait.
Right. So option two, we purchased the 75-foot aerial truck for $316,000. And then we also erase that $30,000 repair bill, so we don't have to have that standing out there. And then he'll give us $5,000 trade-in on the truck that we can't use anyway.
And the 30,000 is a budgeted line item.
Yeah.
So it would put 30,000 of the budgeted line item toward it, and then 5,000 off, so.
And then I still need to send once, if you approve this purchase, then I can send the other truck to Denver for 3 weeks to get its pump repaired and back in line.
And
I'll tell you, the pumps, I was thinking of this the other day when I was in Mark Beho's office. You guys all saw the inside of the water pipes? That's what's damaging the pumps. Because some of that will get into our impellers and just chew them up. And as many fires as we've had over the last 8 years, yeah. So it's gonna be a continual, we're gonna need to
Chief, how much is number 3? How much is the repair on the current
I
truck?
put that in here.
I apologize, I didn't remember where it was.
It's right above that.
Thank you, Councilmember Lozada.
It was like 13,000 if I remember.
Okay. It's 16,466, 65.
100 to get it there.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dave, I'm stuck on 2 million.
I know. We
can't- the 2
we can't
million,
afford that. I know
I
we
get
can't afford
stuck
that.
there.
But I figured I'd throw it out there so you understand
Yeah.
what we're trying. At some point, we're gonna have to invest that,
So we
just on
are,
one truck.
we are looking at a fleet replacement plan in the general fund that includes police and
I
fire.
think you take the $35,000 and go buy Powerball tickets.
You do that, maybe you're lucky. I've never won one of those in my life.
I've never won either.
What exactly do you recommend that you can get by with?
What I have here.
So,
This number 2, option 2, and then number 3, repairing the other one.
well,
And that'll hold me for 5 to 10 years.
the repair would work.
But the repair will work on the ladder truck that we have now, on truck
Right.
2.
So what's the most important aspect you're looking at, the ladder truck or, I mean,
I need them both. It's not like a one or the other. If you have a ladder truck, NFPA says you should have a backup ladder truck. If I send that away for 3 weeks and we have a fire that's in a multi-story building and I have to do rescues, I'm not gonna be able to do those rescues. If I have to fight fire from an elevated position, and you know this, I'm not gonna have that in my toolbox. That tool is going away. Everything we have is a tool down to my pickup that I drive daily. It's a tool to do our jobs.
Chief, the 2018, how often has it been serviced and down in the last year?
A lot. And actually, I just held fleet over on overtime on a Friday. I told you I approved that.
I know.
Because the turbo went out, because I don't have a backup. So I need them to fix those as fast as they can. And it just happened that that turbo came in Friday afternoon, and they were talking about money. I said, no, I need it fixed. And it went into limp mode, so it wouldn't even go over 5 miles an hour. So fleet's been helping us in keeping that truck moving. And then pump testing, it already failed twice. We had the transducers replaced. That was $3,000. And then it came and pump tested again, it failed, and we found the impeller problem. So we went the least expensive to try and fix it, and then now we're at the most expensive to try and keep it running.
It sort of sounded to me that your recommendation would be to repair the one fire truck, to buy the used fire truck, and to make consensus to order a truck that we would receive in 3 to 5 years.
Perfect. But I need to buy the used one first before I send the one we have out for repair.
And I don't think we can commit to the new truck until after we go through the budget
Sure.
season. That would be my recommendation. We can't do
And
both, buy the used and commit to the new right now.
The 316, that's coming from
Reserves.
Reserves.
Yeah, well, these are non-budgeted items.
So really what we're looking at is about $330,000
Roughly.
after we get the 11,000.
What is
My
that?
repair budget annually is 25,000.
What is it?
And I'm almost through that already.
It's-
Just trying to keep these old pieces on the road.
But for both things right now, we're looking
Right.
at roughly
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
$351,000.
Well, we've got the 30,000 that we were gonna pay for the repair of the other one that's in the budget
Right.
that we can use, so it's about
So,
350,000.
so this,
Okay, yeah, okay, thanks.
this $30,000 repair bill, we owe him that already?
We
do
do.
because
Yeah.
he's already done the work, except not all the work, right?
Right.
And so he's gonna eat all of it. He had almost everything done. He's already had the pump repaired, the torque
And that's
box
why he's
repaired.
only offering $5,000 trade.
Well, I'll tell you, the last engine that we sold, we got 3,000 for.
Okay.
These things are, by the time we get rid of them, they're not worth a lot of money.
Is there?
But I'm saying that's
Yeah.
part of the
Yeah.
deal though. so.
Yeah, if we were bought new, there'd be some more money,
Right,
which I showed
yeah.
up top, right?
Is there any opportunity through FEMA, through any firefighters?
There's an AFG grant out there that we can apply for apparatus. Right now, we're working on applying for a safer grant through FEMA to bring 2 more personnel on to improve safety issues in our department. So we're working on that now.
We never have a choice.
Thanks, because I'd like to know that you're already, doing that in the background. I don't know if DOLA's got money, but fire.
I think we would probably look at the FEMA grant this year for capacity and look at the FEMA grant next year to order the new truck and see if we were successful there. And if we were successful, then we would have a percentage of this 1.6.
Thank you so much for the information. Does
Sure.
anyone else have any questions about this daunting experience? We surely want it safe.
Go ahead, man.
I just want to figure out, we keep running into these, and it's not your fault because everything's aging. So I just have a suggestion that we need to look into working into funding streams. If we need to look at some type of specialty tax, we talked about those before. Start working forward towards mills, because if we don't start generating income, we're not going to get anything.
I'm
We're not
doing the
gonna be able
best
to
I can.
protect us. No, I know you're doing your best, but we need to figure out how to get the money in here
Well,
and be able to
and
pay for
we've
this.
taken steps towards that,
Right.
albeit incremental with charging for hazmat.
Right.
Yeah.
Wildland deployments,
As much as we don't want
calls
to
for
talk about.
service.
Yeah, I mean, you've done.
inspection fees. I mean, we're trying to do what we
Yeah,
can
you've done an
because
exemplary
before,
job.
the fire department was just a big insurance policy that you were paying and not getting any money. on, so.
You've done an exemplary job of that,
Oh,
but
yes.
to Councilwoman's point, we do need to start making some tough decisions, unfortunately.
We do.
But I don't really see a way around it. We have to do option 2 and 3. That's what we gotta do.
Yeah, I agree.
And, you know, one of the,
The answer to this problem is people. And that's what we got to figure out, to get people to Trinidad, jobs.
Yeah.
That creates sales tax,
100%.
which creates everything else.
Yeah, everything,
That's,
everything that
That's
we've been
what we
able
gotta
to buy for the
concentrate
fire
on.
department was all with marijuana tax.
it's,
So-
yeah, but it's,
But now we need to
people.
get,
Sure, if we want to grow healthy, we got to do the healthy things.
Right.
we've also pulled back on deployment, which was a revenue stream because
Of our
it's so dry.
drought.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't
I've
want
been
to
holding
be
them
there
back.
when we have them here.
I let them go last week, they signed up, but everybody's getting rain, so we haven't been called. But this rain that we had is probably with this heat, another 2 weeks and we're gonna be back to where we were. If we don't get any rain.
So we don't want to be too far away if we need it here.
Because I only have one piece of wildland equipment until that type 3 comes in.
But Councilmember Rossetti is correct, that's the way out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because this isn't going to change, this is just the fire department today.
So if this is the way you want to go, Tara will have a contract for you on Tuesday to.
For the 316.
Yeah.
So I think you're looking for a sort of a nod that that's the direction that we want to go.
Yeah, I'll work with Mr. Downs and Miss Garrett, and we'll determine, we may do 2 things. We may do a resolution to pull 300,000 from reserve, 300,000 from reserves, and then we'll do a contract approval. I think that's one of the things I want to put in place, is that I want to memorialize council's decision to pull from reserves.
And I'll have Mr. Redden online, he'll attend by Zoom, if that's what we're gonna do on Tuesday.
And we'll have
So you
pictures
can
of it.
ask him any questions you want.
Okay. So we'll have 2 items on the agenda. One, to approve the 300,000 from reserve, and the second, to approve the contract. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chief. Not to come back to the next year, would you? Unless it's good news, and then come back.
This will conclude the meeting. We'll take a 5-minute break and come back for the special meeting.
Okay, sure.
I appreciate
Sounds
that.
good. Thank you.
5:06.